Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Hi, I'm Richard Eidlin, Vice President of the American Sustainable Business Council. Thank you for joining us today at Cleveland State University here in the law school. And Richard Reid, I believe, from the university will join us in a moment. He wanted to say a few welcoming remarks. But let me start with just describing a little bit about the American Sustainable Business Council. We're a national business advocacy group. We work on public policy issues based in Washington, D.C., and work on a wide range of policy issues, from trade policy to wages to climate change to agricultural issues. And what we focus on is making a business case for what we call a sustainable economy. And that's an economy that is investing in the country, an economy that is providing good jobs for people, that's addressing infrastructure challenges, and essentially you could characterize it as an economy that focuses on the 3 Ps of people, planet, environment, and then profit, so the economy. And today, we have designed this program to be really a conversation among thinkers, among business leaders, to discuss where there is an opportunity for overlap between the right and the left around some very fundamental environmental challenges that we face in the United States. And we've been really very pleased. Richard, if you want to come on down. We've been really happy to work with a number of our colleagues across the country from across the political spectrum to put this program together. And this is, again, intended to really focus on what's the business case for sustainability. What are the drivers of sustainability? What is causing companies from a wide range of sectors across the economy to focus on investing in sustainable initiatives, be they in water, be they in climate, be they in infrastructure. And I'm going to pause for a moment. There are a number of people I want to thank, but first I want to turn it over to the interim dean to say a few welcoming remarks for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry I'm a little bit late. We were networking and schmoozing outside, so I was supposed to be here to do an introduction. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Richard Reid, the interim dean of the Montague Hoosier College of Business, and I know you've got a very full agenda, so I'm going to be very brief. I'm happy to welcome you all to CSU. The College of Business is very pleased to partner with the ASBC, the Cleveland Marshall College of Law, on this sustainability forum. Many people in this room have been part of the sustainable business community in the Northeast Ohio region and have partnered with the College of Business in its convener role. And this has been going on for over a decade. I was going to introduce Richard Eidlin. If you want me to continue with that, I can do that.
No, not necessary.
Not necessary?
Thank you.
Well, he's got a very distinguished background. He's worked for 30 years on sustainability, social entrepreneurship, and corporate social responsibility. And he has been involved with a lot of organizations that are very, very prominent. So I'll hand it right back over to you and get out of your way.
Okay, good. Thank you for having us. Good, thank you. And so we've partnered with 2 colleges here at the university, the law school and the business school. And as we organize programs across the country, we've really benefited from connecting with universities. They have lots of resources, they have lots of smart people, so we're really appreciative of our connection here. And I wanted to thank in particular a few people that have been most helpful here. Victoria Avi, who's here at the business school, David Nash, who is an attorney with McMahon and DeGillis, Maida Sanchez, here with the Ohio Sustainable Business Council, and Wendy Curtis, who runs a company here in Ohio called Marketing Sense. Also, really want to thank all of our sponsors today. You can see their logos there. And this has been a collective effort, and we have really appreciated all the support in pulling this program together. So, is Nan here? Okay, great. So, Nan, if you come up. As I said, we wanted to present really the big picture of sustainability, hearing from public officials, hearing from business leaders, hearing from think tanks as to what constitutes the connection between conservative principles and sustainable practices. And so the way we look at it is there's no contradiction at all. We feel that sustainability is really a driver of innovation. It creates great opportunity, makes the United States more competitive. And so we're really happy to have former New York State Congresswoman Nan Hayworth with us today, who has a lot of experience in thinking about this and acting on it. So Nan, thank you for joining us this
Thank
morning.
you so much. It's wonderful to join a group of men and women, fellow citizens who feel passionately that while human potential is limitless, and that's really a great motivator, I think, for all of us, we live, we operate, we sustain our businesses and our communities in the face of limited terrestrial resources. This earth is the home we have, it's the home we share. It's the home we share with fellow Republicans, and it's the home we share with friends and loved ones who are Democrats and Independence Party members and anyone else you can think of. So my goal as a Republican, the reason I am a Republican, the reason my English mother raised me that way herself, as well as my dad, who's an Ohio native, is because I do believe that when government imposes as little on us as possible, we will be able to thrive as much as possible. So when we think about the environment, I'm one of those Republicans who actually does believe that protecting the environment happens at the individual, the community, the state, and the federal level. And I grew up in the industrial Midwest. I grew up a little bit west of here, just out I-80 in Munster, Indiana. And before the EPA, before the Clean Air, Clean Water Acts, which as we know were passed under a Republican administration, President Nixon, things were pretty grim with our environment. And I was very grateful that the federal government stepped in. A great nation should aspire to be as protective as possible of our resources for those who are here now and for the next generation. So as a Republican, I preach that evangel to my fellow Republicans. Thank you. Thank you. We want our federal government and our state governments and our communities to be empowered to do what's right and what's sensible and what will actually succeed based on the best evidence that we can gather. And to my friends who are not Republicans, what I preach to them and what I urge them to think about is that when we have a government, especially from the federal level, I think the Constitution designed the federal government quite brilliantly based on a deep understanding of human nature. But when we have a federal government that wastes resources on unnecessary or burdensome regulation, that creates more heat than light, that takes away attention, and we're talking about business here, that takes away the attention of our entrepreneurs, of especially those who are running small businesses, and those are the ones that we really want to see have an environment in which they can thrive. When we have a federal government that takes away energy and resources from actual productivity, from providing goods and services to the best of our ability, it also takes resources away from the kind of virtuous initiatives that enable us to afford to think ahead about our environment, to think about what we need to do, the investments that we do need to make in a sensible way to make sure that we are protecting this precious earth, this planet that is our shared home. So I want to thank you all again. Thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to a very productive afternoon. Thank you.
Dan, thank you. I wanted to next introduce Rob Sisson. And Rob and I first met, I believe, in 2008 at a Republican convention in Minneapolis. And Rob's organization, Conservative America, of which he's the president, is a great example of a partnership that the American Sustainable Business Council has forged over the past few years, where we've looked at what are the common values that bring us together around environmental stewardship. And Rob had a few remarks he wanted to offer before we move on.
Thanks, Richard. My standard spiel, I call my Rotary Club speech, which traces the legacy of the Republican Party conservation movement. Our next speaker is going to cover that. But if you've read my biography, I'm a former mayor. I'm still a city commissioner. And one of the areas of sustainability I'd like to talk about is from a government standpoint. When I first entered elective office, I had such a hard time talking to my fellow conservatives and fellow Republicans about sustainable practices. They thought that was something that was not the province of Republicans or conservatives, and it just made no sense to them, and they wanted no part of it. But when you sat down and penciled it out and showed them how our local government, our city of 10,000 people, could save meaningful dollars by adopting sustainable practices, the LED light bulb went on above their heads. During my short 2 terms as mayor, we replaced city lighting with LED lighting. We bought battery-operated cars for our meter maid, so to speak. We brought in an area of the township, and instead of building out curb and gutter and all the infrastructure that entails, we did rain gardens. And so from an up point standpoint, we saved a couple $1 million just on infrastructure investment, and the ongoing costs are very minimal. So it's things like this over and over again that allow us to pass tax savings on to our voters and our citizens. And I think it's something, too, that it's a little bit easier to accomplish at the local level because the arm wrestling is much less and there's fewer people you have to arm wrestle with. And so I think part of our mission here, if you're a sustainable business or a business in that market niche, you understand that sustainable practices or sustainable products impact your bottom line in a positive way. And so we need to take that message to policymakers in state capitals and in Washington to promote this across the entire economy, whether it's private or public sector. Thank you.
So as Rob said, the purview of this term sustainability doesn't belong to the left. It actually, as we know, has its origins in conservative thought. And going back to Teddy Roosevelt, it was Richard Nixon who started the Environmental Protection Agency. So there's a long legacy of innovation and progressive thought about environmental stewardship coming from conservatives. So I asked my friend Bill Sharman from Future 500 to come up and give us a little bit of a history lesson of sorts, and to highlight a few of the driving principles why there's this opportunity for conservatives to embrace sustainability and make it a more active part of their strategy. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Richard. I've been a Republican and an environmentalist. I've been an environmentalist, I think, since I was about 6. And I've been a Republican probably around that same time, but registered Republican when I was 18. I've seen no contradiction between them. Conservation is the issue of Abraham Lincoln when he established a national park system. It was the issue of Theodore Roosevelt when he established the forest system. And it is fundamentally a part of the legacy of conservatism, of conservation. I have found in my life, being someone that's dedicated to an issue that has been owned or maybe bestowed to the left, that the left understands the why of environment, but the right understands the how. The left understands how extremely important it is for us to protect the environment. The right has many of the tools that need to be applied to do so effectively, those market-based tools. And it's really that marriage. I think the left and the right are natural marriage partners, frankly. We've had a little problem the last few years trying to get us together, but they are natural partners, and it's time that we brought them together. We have a divided America right now. It's very clear. One party seems to be assigned to each interest group, to each gender, to each race, to each religion, and that is a a source of great dysfunction. When one party gains monopoly control as the sole champion of any interest or group of people, then women, the environment, Christians, blacks, Hispanics, the middle class, young people, older people, each become subjects of that party that they are depending on. And as hard as people within that party might work to advance their interests, the institutional interest of the party is to not advance their cause, or at least claim that their cause has not been advanced, because then they don't have to vote that way anymore. And so that is a dangerous situation that we have found ourselves in today. And that's why conservatives and Republicans need to reclaim the legacy as being advocates for conservation. It's time to reclaim the how and begin to show folks on the left and in the middle that we have solutions that can do the job. I want to thank Richard and ASBC for the great job that they are doing. They provide an essential element of the solution here. Republican lawmakers need business to stand with them in protecting the environment. They need small businesses that are within the districts to stand with them. They need big companies to stand with them as well and give them what they call political cover. But it's that political rationale, the reason, the pragmatic reason in the district that they need to be there to support smart policies that put more money in people's pockets and to protect the environment at the same time. That's what Republicans can bring to this. And we also have the opportunity with 5 or 10 swing states here deciding Senate elections this year to help independents, the folks who can go either way, reclaim their power in the system, because they are the power that's missing. We have the two extremes battling one another, fighting no common ground. But if in those 5 to 10 swing states we can elect independents, whether they are Republicans or Democrats, if we can elect independents who will stand together to draw the country together again, then we have the capacity to bring the how and the why together and to make things happen, to make that kind of change that people are hungry for actually happen. So I congratulate all of you for being here. I thank ASBC for the great work that they're doing, and I look forward to a great conversation.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Richard.
So before we start our first panel, I just wanted to say a few other words about the American Sustainable Business Council. We were formed in the summer of 2009, and our essential premise was that there needed to be another business voice to engage in the policymaking process. And what we had been seeing was that there was a real polarization, as Bill just spoke about, on the left and the right, and that business we knew had tremendous credibility. But that there were a number of very prominent business organizations that were sort of running the show, and we felt there was an opportunity and a need for another business voice to bring particularly small and mid-sized companies into the policymaking process, which is what we've done now over the past 7 years. So we represent over 200,000 companies across the country. Some of those firms are publicly traded companies, some are mom and pop, some are mid-sized companies. So we have also built the national organization on the basis of having relationships and partnerships with about 85 independent business organizations. Here in Ohio, we have our partner, the Ohio Sustainable Business Council, which is run by Maida Sanchez, and have similar business alliances with groups really across the United States. Some are sector-based, some are issue-based, some are place-based, some are national business organizations. And together, as Bill suggested, when we show up in Washington, there's instant credibility because it's the business voice. And what we pursue is a nonpartisan agenda, making the business case for what we think are smart, rational policies that drive the economy in a positive direction. So with that, let me ask the panelists in the first session to come up, and we'll get going from there. Trammell, when you're ready, join us, and Howard, and Joe. If you gentlemen just want to grab I'll let you sit there, and I'll stay here.
We ain't know. We ain't got it.
Okay, so this is intended to be a conversation among the five of us. We also want you to have an opportunity to ask questions. And I should note that we're also periscoping this. For those of you who don't know that, and I didn't know that until a few weeks ago, that's a Twitter product. So this is being broadcast, and so there may be some questions from the Twitter sphere. We're also videotaping this, and we'll end up producing a shorter version. So if any of you are interested in having a copy of that, we'd be happy to share that with you. Okay? So this first session is entitled Environmental Sustainability as a Competitive Advantage. So the thinking here is that adopting a certain set of business practices are good for the bottom line, saving water, reducing one's carbon emissions, reducing waste, and also engaging the workforce in these practices and policies. So I'd like to start, and let me just actually quickly introduce our speakers. Their bios are in the program, so I won't spend a lot of time going through their details, but Joe Paterniti is a Vice President of Enterprise Manager. He's a Vice President Enterprise Manager in KeyBank's Energy Efficiency and Renewables division here in Ohio, but KeyBank has a national footprint. Trammell Crow, to Joe's right, is a founder of Earth Day Texas, that we'll be hearing much more about, and a partner of Crow Holdings, and Trammell's based in Dallas. David Anthony is the Director of Governmental and Corporate Affairs with Naturepedic here in Ohio in Chagrin Falls. And Naturepedic makes a variety of non-toxic, chemical-free mattresses for children and adults. And then to the far right, although not politically speaking, I don't think Howard, is that right? Is Howard Williams. He's the Vice President with Construction Specialties, which is based in Pennsylvania. And they make high-efficiency products for the built environment, for high-performance buildings. So, Trammell, if we could start with you, and you have been an environmentalist for many years.
Not as long as Bill, John.
Okay, and you've also been a very successful business person. So, when you think about what's driven you, what's inspired you to be to adopt sort of the environment as your calling now, right, with Earth Day Texas. If you think back, what has really motivated you to adopt this cause as your cause to be an environmental steward?
I was thinking when Bill said he was 8 years old.
Hold the mic up.
I was thinking when Bill said he was.
And you can take those mics out if you want to, John.
I was thinking when Bill said that he was 8 years old. It was in 1961 when the Kennedy election. I ran to my daddy. I said, Daddy, are we Republican or are we Democrat? He said, neither, son. We're conservative. I think it was the next year that my brother came home from military school with his spit-shine shoes and looking up that silk strip on his trouser leg, and he taught me 3 words: population, environment, and politics. He forgot the first 2, but I'm sure he's more conservative than I. And that's when it was instilled in me, never really getting actively involved. So specifically, answer your question, when I got involved finally, when I retired and began working in civic activities, Texas Utilities in Dallas was trying to pull past and get permits for power plants to build 11 coal-fired plants. 2 businessmen came to me and asked me to go with them and start a group we call Texas Business for Clean Air. The result of that is what inspired me to be involved now, because we recruited about 250 businessmen throughout the state, all of the big cities, who were all leaders in their industries and communities with reputation, and they all joined our group, put their names on our roster, and fought the utility company. That was a very big deal in Texas about 8 years ago.
8 years ago, okay.
Yeah. So I thought, it's time, it's ready now, let's go.
Let me ask Howard to pick up on that for a moment, Trammell. And Howard, you and I have talked a bit about the claim that there's some contradiction between being a conservative and being concerned about sustainability, right? And so I know you thought a lot about that. So to pick up on Trammell's point, what is the what is the disconnect if there is one, and if there isn't, inform us as to how conservative thought and sustainability and environmental stewardship fit nicely together.
All right. I think for me, when associating sustainability and conservative thought, they are clearly brought together, and they're brought together with humanity. I think that's the glue that really brings sustainability, the components of sustainability, into conservative thought. Additionally, and certainly as we talked about, each party tends to politicize what is really not a political issue. It's an issue that has been politicized, and ultimately sustainability is about how we deal with our finite resources. And if we leave humanity in the margin, we've missed a finite resource. And we can argue about various policies. Certainly when we think about healthy materials and getting chemicals of concern out of the products that we use every day, the issue comes in that that is such a clear part of sustainability that really needs to be brought into the question. What are we passing on generationally? We'll talk about recycled content, we'll talk about reutilizing materials, and that's the standard part of sustainability, but for whom are we designing materials today? And that ultimately in generations to come. So we're protecting the finite resources and considering humanity a part of that finite resource is very much a conservative thought issue. It's very much an issue that has no political boundaries. I think that when we talk about trying to, I like the how and the why. I really like that because I think that that's there and that's that common ground on which we can go forward.
And Trammell, you know, to think about the work you've been doing in Dallas with Earth Day, Texas, right, which is now, I think, the largest Earth Day gathering in the nation.
Oh, it is.
Okay. And it brings together a wide cross-section of the public, of business, of government leaders. And, you know, some people, I've been there 2 years now running, and some people are really surprised when they hear Dallas, Earth Day. Seems like a real contradiction. So, to Howard's point, how is it that you decided to bring these folks together, and you know, a conservative yourself, right, on these environmental issues? What's the connect there? Why do this in Dallas?
Well, I really have to say that we did it in Dallas because that's where I live. But I think my friends will say it's because you like to do things the hard way every time.
So you picked a difficult place.
I think that as far as the very, very cities in America, Dallas-Fort Worth is the hardest place. Houston has had to deal with their issues because of their industry. So that irony is a good thing. It's topical. It's catchy. But it's very, very difficult. It was only natural in Texas to have these environmental groups to our first Earth Day 6 years ago with display. Get as many weekends so all the people can see with their environmental groups. You can do something. But in Texas, it's only natural to have corporations. So there's no thought about it. Kimberly-Clark is based there, and they cut down fewer trees than they used to, and they should tell people. So that began that at universities and government agencies, the forestation. But with the larger companies, the conversation has not been ice to break. Mm-hmm. All large corporations and medium-sized companies have CSOs at this time. To get them to come to Dallas and be at this new Congress of environmentalism in Texas of a national nature is tough to get something they've never done before, but it's ongoing.
And you use the word conversation, and I think that's a really important term, because Earth Day Texas and many other forums are bringing people together to look at what the common solutions are. And David, I wanted to ask you a question about Naturepedic's business model. And I know Naturepedic's a member of the American Consumer Business Council, that the origin of Naturepedic was not intended. It was responding to a personal health challenge, and in a larger extent was responding to the conversation taking place in the broader public about concern over environmental health and the impact of certain products that we're using and the negative impact that was having on human health. So tell us a little bit about the story of Naturepedic and the business case for sustainability.
Richard and I do this many times, so I got this down pat. So hang with me for the next 5 to 6 minutes, and it'll change your life, hopefully. First and foremost, welcome to Cleveland. This is my hometown, and we are actually in my alma mater. I went to this great law school, and I currently am an adjunct at both the business school and the law school here. So I'm happy to have you here, and I hope you're enjoying the convention as much as I am. And one of the first things we'll do environmentally is try to get less credentials next year. Yes, Twin Falls is a southeastern suburb just on the tip of Amish country, probably about a half hour away from here. And anybody who actually wants to visit the factory during your tour, it's like Willy Wonka's factory. It's fantastic. It's old-fashioned. You can see the mattresses being handmade. But we'll get to that in a second. A little trivia for those of you that are here. This room you're in is actually pretty special. This is the first place Prince Charles visited back in the 70s. And this magnificent bench, you can see it behind me. Cleveland State is famous for its moot court program, and virtually almost every single Supreme Court justice has participated and sat up there behind me. So you're in a special room here. But again, welcome to Cleveland. We're glad to have you. Now, let me tell you our story. My boss is probably the most wonderful, generous, kind man I've ever met. His name is Barry Chick, and he was my first job out of law school. He's an environmental engineer, one of the most brilliant people you ever meet, and we used to clean up brownfields here in Cleveland. 20 years ago, Barry and I used to, I was fresh out of law school, and we used to try and clean up some of the 10,000 contaminated properties here in Cleveland. So that's actually how we got our start. And again, we just thought it was silly that 10,000 properties were sitting there, not being used, still an environmental hazard because nobody would ever buy them. And so we actually pushed for a statewide program where the state would issue a covenant not to sue. And many of you in the room who aren't fans of an overbearing federal government will appreciate this. The program essentially died because we couldn't get sign-off for a federal covenant not to sue. So what's the point of going through all the hoops to get a state covenant not to sue when you still had the fear that the federal EPA would come knocking? By the way, I should point out, and this is a shameless way to endear myself to the crowd, I have a 1-year-old daughter named Reagan. So
how do you spell it?
R-E, just like the president. I think you know where I come from. But so anyways, that was 20 years ago, and 11 years ago, Barry was having his first granddaughter. Barry is an older guy, had never been in a children's store in his life, and his wife said, Barry, go get a crib mattress for our grandchild. So, and Barry's quirky, and Barry's funny, and Barry, asks a million questions. Got a little Larry David in him, asking questions. And he walks into the baby store, and the clerk's showing him the products, and Barry's horrified because he's an environmental scientist. He's the smartest man I know. He knows everything about chemicals for the last 30, 35 years. And these mattresses are filled with polyurethane foam, and flame retardants, and vinyl, and phthalates, and formaldehyde, and all kinds. And Barry's looking at these people like, are you crazy? He doesn't know anything about being in a baby store. He doesn't know anything about this, but he knows he's not putting his grandchild centimeters away for a third of its life on off-gassing toxic materials. For those of you, not too hip with the environmental lingo, when you think off-gassing, just think new car smell. We love it because it means we got a new car, but the fact is you're smelling the toxic chemicals from the dashboard, the vinyl, whatever. So Barry was horrified, and Barry has a long history and relationship with the Amish community. He's a great guy, he knows everybody, and they're his friends. So he literally had an idea to make the first of its kind waterproof organic crib mattress. And 12 years ago, everyone probably thought he was nuts. And he'll tell the story, the first convention he ever went to, he was just standing there like some lunatic with a mattress saying organic crib mattress. And this would have never happened. And this is why the genie's out of the bottle and there's no going back. This would have never happened without the internet. Because stories like this that have never been covered on your nightly news, they've never been in your major newspaper, but moms-to-be and dads-not-to-be as well are the greatest researchers. And they spend hours and hours researching about what to do for their new bundle of joy. And that's how we got discovered in a short period. Naturepedic, the crib mattresses, are now in over 600 stores. We can find us in any Buy Buy Baby, etc. And the design is every single way we can make it safer and better and use less chemicals. We don't use, we don't use flame retardants. We don't use polyurethane foam. We don't use any of that. We use organic cotton. Instead of vinyl filled with phthalates, we use a food-grade polyethylene, the same thing they wrap your sandwich in. They're the most incredible designs, and we stay away from chemicals at all costs. But anyways, that took off. 600 stores later, and ironically, like 3-4 years ago, all the adults who bought it for their kids said, hey, where's mine? So now we make handmade, Amish-made, gorgeous adult mattresses as well. And they're about, they're very competitive price-wise. They're actually, when we sell them out in LA, the celebrities, I get to go to Oscar parties with celebrities, it's kind of fun. When we sell them out there, they can't believe, that we're as cost-effective as we are, because, you go to Hollywood and they're selling stuff for 40 grand, and ours are 3,000. So, we're from Ohio, we don't know any better. But anyways, so we make the sheets, the pillows, the pillowcases, the comforters, you name it, we make it, the mattresses, the adult, the kids. But again, the genie's out of the bottle. You're never going to go back, and moms are demanding this. You have moms now that when they're having a baby, they're going in the nursery, or the emergency room, they're cross-examining the doctors. What's that NICU pad made out of? What chemicals do you use there? I mean, they know more than most of the doctors on many of these things. So, anyways, for us, it's going back to what you were saying. We're doing very well. Our business is to make a lot of money doing it the right way. It has a cool factor. We're incredibly successful. We have this rabid base of supporters who want it made the way we make it. And just to show you how we're always evolving when it comes to sustainability, we actually make a modular adult bed now. And why is that genius? The owner's son actually thought of it. He used to live in a New York high-rise, and he couldn't get his bed up the staircase. And you're not retrofitting those old buildings in Boston and New York. And so he made a modular bed that is 5 pieces. Envision an outer case of organic cotton, and then envision 2 coil levels that come compressed and spring to life, and then envision 2 comfort layers. So look at something we designed for one reason actually has tremendous other benefits. You can customize it. Your side can be firm, your partner's side can be soft. But here's the beauty of it. We let you sleep on it 90 days. If you don't like the feel of it, you swap out a layer for free. So think about the sustainability of this. It's almost like bed in perpetuity. You never throw away the bed. If in 10 years you don't like the feel of the bed, you just buy one new piece instead of buying a whole new bed. We let you swap out the layers for free at the beginning, so instead of shipping back whole beds, we ship you that new little piece. So the point is, everything we do is like a better design. It has a cool factor. It's really smart. Young people are drawn to it. We sell them like crazy. Young people, kind of like these, we call them the IKEA types who like to, assemble stuff and have the coolest, latest thing. But the whole company started on this belief that we got to get away from these chemicals. And I can talk hours about chemicals if you want. But then also, just always bettering, always coming up with cooler, newer designs and doing things that are sustainable and smarter. And again, you're all welcome to take the factory tour.
Yeah, so just by a quick show of hands, who's going to go buy a Naturepedic mattress? It's definitely worth your time to come by. Thank you.
Well, you get the ASBC discount, so you're really...
okay. Just 2 quick examples, and we want to turn to Joe. Part of the phenomenon here is that the market is driving these opportunities, right? So we have a number of hospitals that are members of the American Sustainable Business Council: Hackensack University Medical Center in New Jersey and Virginia Mason, which is in Seattle, both really well-established healthcare providers. And for them, a key priority is reducing the level of toxicity in their facilities, because they want people to come into those facilities, get better, and then leave, right? And it becomes a huge cost challenge for them if people stay in that facility longer and longer, right? So they've been purchasing these mattresses as part of a broader strategy to create better human health. So it's really an interesting trend. So Joe, to turn to you in the financial services industry and banking, we know that the market for renewables, solar, wind in particular, energy efficiency has exploded over the past 20 years. And, there are a number of people who want to, I think, better understand why is a commercial bank involved in this space, and what are you hearing from your clients as far as their interest in adopting these technologies, and tell us a little bit about how the bank gets involved in these projects, how you finance these types of projects, and where you see the market heading.
Sure. So, very honored to be here today and talk with everybody on a very, what I feel, very important and timely topic. KeyBank views sustainability as a business responsibility, not just an activity that we starting with our own facilities, we have 26 LEED certified facilities across the country. 30% of our overall square footage is Energy Star rated 75 or better. 71% of our waste is diverted from landfills. Since 2009, we've eliminated over 65% of our paper usage, and have a renewable portfolio of over $2 billion, which essentially equates to offsetting the energy uses of 2 million homes on a daily basis. We've seen that opportunity and that responsible activity manifest itself in the type of employees and responsible activities that the bank uses, but a direct financial benefit to the organization that turns into a financial sustainable advantage. When we talk about clients looking to do this, whether it's an organization like yourself that's focused on that, or looking at sustainable practices within their organization and looking at renewables, or looking at lighting, or looking at whatever that particular strategy is, there's both financial benefits that come down to that bottom line, that make them stronger organizations that attract high quality, responsible talent within the market. So what we look to do for our clients is the same thing that we do for ourselves, is help them walk down that path of helping them identify the opportunities within the buildings, help them identify how to leverage that, from a Lean Six Sigma or a lean manufacturing process, to convert that to profitability within our organization. That translates back to all of those other things. So there's no reason that strong business can't also be responsible employment activity.
And give us some insight into the thinking of some of your commercial clients who may be seeing inaction as increasing their risk. So, we hear from a number of companies that they are taking these proactive initiatives regardless of policy, because they're concerned about climate change, they're concerned about escalating energy costs, they're concerned about the lack of resiliency on the grid. So they're looking for options, and they see being proactive as a risk mitigation strategy. Is that something that the bank is hearing from its clients?
Oh, absolutely. On a daily basis. Energy costs are a constant cost to an organization. And developing a strategy that reduces that cost, it is something that's very valuable to that organization, especially when it brings that responsibility and that value. What we consistently hear, Motorcars Honda here in Cleveland Heights, about 20 minutes to the east of us, has gone through a process over the last year and a half that started with small implementations, personal change activities in their employees, to hard upgrades within their facility, putting up a solar canopy that actually used recycled materials from used cars to put from that standpoint. They reduced their operating costs by, or their energy costs by 65-70%. They took that, reinvested in employees. They hired new people that they wouldn't have hired before, and then they onboarded a strategy that reduced costs to their clients and made that more efficient. So now what they actually see, is the beginning to actually win, a lot of awards. I put some of them down here, the number one dealership in online reviews. We're one of the top 100 dealerships in the country out of 18,000. They're the top family-owned business based on claims in Cleveland. And that's a result of their activities, their responsibility that they're bringing back to the environment. That's turning back to clients coming in. That's turning back to supporting those same objectives that the community that they sit in and live in. And that's really that economic impact, both on the personal level and on the economic level. And it shows that can be done.
Howard, let me ask you the same thing from the building products industry, because we know that LEED certification has dramatically changed the way buildings are structured. I know on this campus there are at least 5 new buildings that are all LEED certified, I think at maybe a gold or silver level. And your business, I would imagine, has dramatically grown as a result of this interest in energy efficiency. So could you tell us a little bit more about Construction Specialties and how you're both leading the market and maybe following?
I think certainly we were fortuitously placed because we make products that hang on the outside of the building and reduce the sunlight, reduce the solar heat gain for the building. And the benefit of rethinking the architectural elevation, virtually every building now has some type of solar shading in order to reduce the heat gain. Additionally, we make products that allow air to be brought into a building and the HVAC units to operate more effectively and more efficiently. The real issue is that what is happening with LEED and with buildings, the recognition that we spend about 90% of our time inside a building, and that where buildings have generally been seen as these inanimate objects that we go into and out of, the realization is that buildings actually now take on a form of animacy in that the products within the building, whether they're products that have use like a solar shade, or whether they're products on the inside of a carpet, upholstery, fabric that is free of chemicals of concern, now allow that interior space to be a space that is better for us as people. So Dr. Claudia Miller, University of Texas, Austin, said a couple of years ago that architects have a greater influence on human health than the medical profession. And that's largely because the doctors can tell us what to do or ask us to do something, and then we in our humanity usually go off of it like we go off of our New Year's diet. But when buildings are built and materials are used, not just buildings, but materials are used within the house, whether we're using method soap or we're paying very close attention to our mattresses and our fabrics, the inside of that building is contributing whether our behavior changes or not. So business is in this wonderful position to not only affect issues such as use of fossil-based fuels and reduction there. And the great thing is the minute you reduce your fuel, the minute you reduce that, you're also reducing money and you're saving. So sustainability and savings work well together. And again, I hope I'm not being overly redundant, but sufficiently redundant to say that this human component that really needs to come into our designs and all around us, that's the important part.
I don't know if we're Q&A or not, but
what Trammell you want to say?
How do these products be so competitive? They're so superior.
Like products.
So Trammell's question is, how can these products be so competitive?
Home Depot says
Grab this microphone.
Home Depot says they're approximately 3% higher than non-green products.
Okay.
How can these products be so competitive?
Yeah, David.
Well, like I said before, the customers will pay slightly more, although in many cases it's not more. But let me give you just a few more examples. Anybody ever hear of a little 4 or 5-year-old company called The Honest Company? Jessica Alba has $1 billion evaluation in 4 or 5 years. Method, 7th generation. Whether it's cleaning supplies or makeup or home furnishings, again, the genie's out of the bottle, and the costs are coming down, and we're more competitive. But here's the point. Companies who don't do this are going to be sitting ducks for that same reason that those moms and shoppers care now. I'm part of a group, I won't tell you its name because we meet confidentially, but it's a bunch of leaders from different Fortune 500 companies who would never want to be on record with reporters, the meetings like secret, and it's people come together and they send their sustainability rep. So for example, just to paint a picture for you, give you some examples. Levi's, to make your jeans soft, they used to use a whole bunch of water and chemicals. But they knew someday they'd have, 2020 or somebody with a microphone in their face. So now to make your jeans soft, they drag them over a rock. They have a process. Seagate makes, cables and computer stuff. Well, the guy tells us every year they try to make the wires thinner and the plastic thinner and the leftover waste as small as possible. So a lot of companies, let's not kid ourselves, a lot of them aren't doing it because there's green in some of us. They're doing it because they just want to get burned. Either way, it steps in the right direction. So a lot of them are trying to pick the low-hanging fruit and get on the green path, if you will. But this is the future. I go to mom blogger conferences. These mom bloggers, a lot of them are more powerful than your local newspaper. If I paid a big money for an ad in a newspaper, how many of you ever are going to see it anymore? But you know what? If we give a crib mattress to a mom blogger, and she has 20,000 rabid mom followers who hang on her every word, and she writes a review about how toxic some of the other mattresses are, you couldn't pay for a review like that. So there's a whole industry. If you're not hip to it, I suggest you talk to me or somebody else quick. Your company should be taking sustainable steps just so you're not a sitting duck. You should be doing it because it's the right thing to do. You should be doing it because it's a great way to make money and be competitive. You should do it because the marketplace is going to continually demand it, and you're going to be left behind if you're not making change. The companies that do have the brand that we do, we have a brand. If you say Naturepedic, there's a whole bunch of people out there who knows that is as away from chemicals as I can get. And I'm willing to pay whatever for that, and we're still price competitive. So I'm telling you, you build your brand first, you do it the right way first, and then everything else catches up.
Yeah, I would just add to that, to David's point, the evolution of the American Single Business Council is entirely consistent with that trend. And so the companies David just mentioned are the market leaders. They're also all members of the American Single Business Council. And what we're finding is the public is responding overwhelmingly, in favor. They're voting with their dollars. You also find that the Standard & Poor's Sustainability Index is a real driver of change. So there's actually now an index that tracks the performance of these companies, and they're generally outperforming their competitors in all sectors of the economy. So this is not a fringe movement as it might have once been 30 years ago, but it's now increasingly mainstream. And Trammell, I wanted to turn back to you for a moment. And when you think about, look at this. I got this right here. When you think about Earth Day Texas, right? And you think about Earth Day Texas in 2017, right? How can you bring more of these companies into this conversation? And how can we, really broaden this conversation so it takes place across the U.S. and using Earth Day Texas as a vehicle for that?
We have focused monomaniacally in building a physical presence in Dallas, which is 11 times larger than any public green exhibition in the world. These things just don't happen. Environmental groups and government agencies. So, and we are trying to bring the conversation to one location. Many people would have to burn jet fuel to come to an environmental conference. But this year, in the last couple of years, we've gotten smart about social media. This year, we will start with Future 500 and other business councils, I suppose, the the dialogue on the internet, so that it will be a year-round thing. Everybody wants his birthday every day, and simulcast during those 4 days in April every year, with universities and corporations and so forth being in. We're talking to this university today.
Great, excellent. So, yeah, and we want to wrap up here, but David, go ahead, add a quick thought.
Well, I just want to make a point because we're part of ASBC, and that's the best money we ever spent. I've lobbied at the White House the last 3 years against toxic chemicals. So you've heard our story. You can see I'm as conservative as they get, and I'm green, and we're doing really well. But we have so much access thanks to groups like the ASBC and now the OSBC in Ohio. Brian McGannon's back there. He works always right here taking pictures. Literally, we were at the table in the White House lobbying against radical changes in TSCA. And so we have this old saying, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So I encourage you to get involved in ASBC because for whatever the membership is, we have just tremendous access. We have access to these other companies. I got 50 pictures with Jessica Alba, my friends all want to kill me. I mean, it's just unbelievable. There's unbelievable strength. And the nice thing about it, too, is you can pick and choose which causes you want to be involved in. So ASBC is very active, and let's say in the minimum wage debate, but we have Amish workers. It's not really our thing. It doesn't really apply. But boy, when it comes to getting chemicals out of your kids' products, we're right there. So you can pick and choose, where you want to get involved. So one final plug is the best organization we're involved with.
Thank you, David. So let's take 1 or 2 questions from the audience. And Bob Keener, our PR director, has a microphone, I believe.
I do.
So are there any questions that somebody has?
Yes, my name is Alex. In research found as an obstacle companies moving towards sustainability. Some larger companies probably have finances to deal with large consulting firms, but medium and small companies have much more limited resources, although they also want to move in the same direction. The university, on the other hand, desired to help to do some research and help companies to do good and be well at the same time. The challenge that companies not ready to share their data, and it's hard to provide good roadmap to those companies without having data to analyze. So how can we reconcile those challenges and move in the right direction?
Anyone have Howard or David, you have thought about that?
Sure. Absolutely, they're not going to share anything with you. They're all afraid of, in fact, these groups that I work with and we meet with, they don't want to say anything. Now, I should tell you that same group is coming up with a plastic scorecard, a chemical scorecard, and instead of worrying about government trying to do this, they're actually going to they're going to come up with a program where consumers demand information. So, for example, we're happy to share everything that goes in ours because we're as good as it gets. Organic cotton, organic wool, whatever. So we don't have anything to hide. But the point of the scorecard is that it'll start showing up on products like ours. So we're green. We know we're green, so we're going to have a bunch of green squares on ours. If you got a bunch of red, you have an option. You put all your bunch of red down there that look like a skull and crossbones, or you don't put it on there, and then consumers say, well, why isn't it on there? And so the consumer is going to drive this way faster than government ever would. You're not going to get any data from companies. It's proprietary. They risk being part of lawsuits and litigation. So it's an uphill battle. But the bigger issue for companies that are trying to move to sustainability is a sourcing one. For example, we're so fanatical, we get our cotton from Texas because it's organic, and we don't want to import anything because when you import it, it gets fumigated. So we have to hustle like crazy to have suppliers to make everything we have. But I'm all for free markets, and the more people that demand this stuff and the more big companies that start trending this way, we're seeing the supply chain improve, and everyone's got more options, and that's what's driving prices down. You have companies like Target, they have a line, products that matter now. A lot of big retailers are coming up with greener products. So again, you're going to see things improving. But as far as your actual data question, you're not going to have any luck.
And I think it's, there are a number of labeling initiatives that are driving the market, and then there are companies like a Walmart or a Target that are driving their supply chain to become more responsible, and that's a condition of doing work with them. Howard, do you have a quick comment on that?
Yes, the Cradle Product Innovation Institute. Go on their website and look at pilot study, True Cost, which is a global economic sustainability or sustainability economist group, put together a study of 9 companies and what is the value to those companies of sustainability and cradle-to-cradle certification. There's some data there. The other part is our company isn't large. We're a mid-sized company, and the champions are from within. And it's a matter of companies giving those champions some latitude, and then ultimately it's a matter of listening to the customer. The best research that any business can do is to look at what its customers want. Get on their website, what do your customers want, what do your customers value? That's just a very basic business principle. And mirroring or supplying customer demand is what really pulls the whole of sustainability forward.
And I think, Jeremy, you have, yeah.
Hi, Jeremy Sigmund with the U.S. Green Building Council. Thank you for your remarks and presentations today. So we're here at a policy forum on conservative thought and sustainability, but we're also here parallel to the Republican National Convention. And I'm curious to know if any of you or each of you has any insights or some hopeful news about where you think the trend of this is moving at the national level. Each of you, I think, is a glimmer of hope for how this is growing within your businesses and organizations, but other examples that you see where conservative thought and sustainability, we can look forward to seeing more of that in the future.
Yeah, I think we're going to hear a lot of good answers about that in our next session, which is populated by groups who are focused on those issues. But do any of the panelists have a comment on that?
I would say the U.S. Green Building Council has been one of the most dynamic forces to bring the reality of being able to quantify and qualify sustainable practices. And with Rick Frederici now being head of WELL, there are a number, and I'm really speaking to him, so he understands what I'm talking about. There are so many wonderful movements afoot. The construction industry is a very large percentage of our gross domestic product. And when we begin to turn that ship towards sustainability, the world listens.
I think one candidate literally could spark the debate. Whatever side you're on the issue, let's be honest, if it wasn't for Trump, no one would talk about immigration. Well, much the same way, if I was Trump and I was having issues with female voters, I would talk about chemicals and children's products. And about 2 million mom bloggers and their followers out there would be receptive. So I think it can happen that quick where somebody can come up with, just start the narrative and you're going to see it go like this. Because I'm telling you, between those online people and the conferences I go to and everything else, the Natural Products Expo in California gets 80,000 attendees at Angel Stadium and the Convention Center. 80,000 people. It's not just selling granola anymore. I mean, everyone you can think of is there. So that's the next thing that's going to explode and that's going to really make a difference.
You have any thoughts on that?
Sure. U.S. Green Building Council helped with the study, the 2014 study done by ACCU. It's a summer study that analyzed 2 billion square feet of commercial property and the effects of sustainable initiatives on those properties over an extended period of time. And there's a lot of data there that shows the sustainability of those projects and those organizations in terms of what they deliver. So there's definitely data out there, and there's definitely interest, as you're talking about, for people to get engaged in that. It's really about once we have those conversations, when we have those conversations with our clients. There's always interest about going down that path. A lot of times they just need their hand in hell to say, how do I start looking at this? Where does that conversation start?
Good. Trammell, any final thoughts on that you want to share with us?
Just come to Earth Day, and if you don't, we'll have it screaming.
Richard, I will say, I do have to run and go back to the convention, so, but that was a sincere offer. If anybody wants to visit the factory, Dale, can you raise your hand here? He's with Naturepedic as well. You can go to our website, naturepedic.com, or just talk to Dale, and you get 25% off anything you buy. Just tell him.
Can we get a free one if we blog about it?
we have people you can talk to in marketing. There, it depends. But anyone here, anything you buy, 25% off to see Dale.
Well, I did have something, and that was the man that's holding this brochure over here is with Earth Day, Texas.
We got info for you, so we'll track you down, come see me.
and Bruce is serious about that. Well, thank you all, and I just want to quickly summarize. I think we've heard a number of really great examples from different sectors in the economy about a strong business case for adopting sustainable practices, that these drive value to the bottom line, that the market is really calling for these initiatives. This is replete throughout the economy, and I think that there is a tremendous opportunity for conservatives and liberals and independents to come together around